Hi, I'm Daniel Green and I love showing you all how to make something interesting from food in your cupboards. Right now though, we're going to raise the bar because we're going 5-star restaurant as we fire up the pantry. So on the menu today is a wonderful Italian bean puree with tiger shrimp that have been seasoned and cooked in oil. Now I've got some shrimp that I took out the freezer and they've just defrosted. We've got some lemon juice, some olive oil, season that up really well, a can of beans, and then we've got some garlic and some dried basil. I've got a scallion just for garnish, but I'll show you how easy it is. It's going to look like it's out of a 5-star restaurant. Now to get this going, I'm going to make a bean puree. Now I love bean purees because you've got a lot of protein in them. You've got not so high in carbohydrates and you're not having the wheat or the gluten that so many people really don't want now. And to me it's just the perfect dish. I love to have this as a dip with some crusty bread if you do want to be a little bad, or it's just brilliant with vegetables. Now I've got a white bean. You can use any kind of beans. You can even use black beans if you want, but this just goes really nicely balanced with the olive oil. I'm going to take some of those beans and I'm going to put them in my little canister for a stick blender. And then what I'm going to do is take some garlic. Now I'm trying to use things that you can keep long term in your pantry. We've all been stuck at home for way too long now. And in this is a roasted garlic in a tube. Now I do love fresh garlic, but the whole point of this exercise is to show you things you can use and keep for a long time. So therein that goes with a little bit of seasoning. I've got this salt and pepper that kind of grinds the two together. I am going a little heavier with this. It does need a bit more salt. I'm very careful on how much salt I normally add, but this one kind of just works really well to have a bit of a kick. You can put a bit of chili in here as well. Then to that, I'm going to put some olive oil. A lot of people ask me about olive oil because I do use it a lot. I use it to cook with, which most people say you shouldn't because it hasn't got a high retention and heat. But the thing is, I only just coat the food, so you can cook with it. And I love to have a really good organic olive oil. There's a difference when you say extra virgin olive oil or olive oil. That's actually just the flavor. It's the first press, which is much more rich in its flavor. So if you've got a really good extra virgin olive oil, use that for salads and pastas. And the other oils you can use, for cooking a little bit more. But the saturated fat is exactly the same. I'm going to take some lemon juice and give that a nice little squirt in there. Back to what I was saying, I'm using this in a bottle. I love fresh lemon juice, but I'm just trying to think of reasons that you can use things in your pantry rather than this constant shopping that is very hard to do. We're in a great place in the world where really food is delivered very easily and what we choose we can get. But I know for so many people that I hear in England and also all over the US, people have it hard when a lot of delivery companies are not getting exactly what they need. So stocking up on things you can get to make recipes like this is perfect. Now I'm going to come to these in a few moments. I've got some big tiger shrimp that are actually in the shell. I'm going to take the shell off. You can use any kind of shrimp, and you can even use cooked shrimp if you want to make that easier. Now what I'm going to do here is take my stick blender and just get this down to a puree. You could do it in a large food processor if you need to. And I did put a little bit of dried basil. Again, I love fresh basil, and maybe this time of year you can grow it in your garden outside. But this is a great alternative just so you've got it all the time to give a little bit of flavor to all this food. I'm going to take my bean puree, and I'm using a spatula because then I can kind of get everything out. I don't waste any. I could have done the whole can of beans, but I want to save a couple for garnish as well. And then what I'm going to do here is get the heat on very, very lightly. And I promised you that we were kind of going restaurant style. Restaurant style to me is more the presentation, how it looks. And we can create that at home so easily. So stay with me and I'll show you how we're going to dress it up and we're going to serve it up. Now, this is how we're going to cook the shrimp. I'm going to peel them, put them in another bowl, and I want to show you a little trick because I'm all about the skinny, how you can get the food to be as lean as possible without having to go too high in the fats. A lot of people are loading up on the carbs at home right now. We're in a bad routine. It's time we've got to be a bit more careful, isn't it? Because I know it's easy for all of us to kind of make the wrong choices. But if you have a little bit of thought behind it, you really can do it very, very well. And I want to give you some ideas how to do that. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of olive oil and I'm going to do this. Coat the food, not the pan. Season it up. Give my hands a rinse after this. But this is what I want to do. I want to coat the food in the oil. I'm going to take my shrimp and I'm going to cook them for probably 30 seconds to a minute each side. It depends how thick they are. These are really large shrimp, so I think we'll probably go more about a minute on that. A scallion. I'm going to slice off the edge, slice it down the middle again, and then it's a nice little kind of spread out, even slice. As I go down the scallion, I get more color, which is what I'm looking for in this final dish on the presentation. If you don't have a scallion, no problem. You can use a little bit of dried, but I'm just doing it to make it a little bit more interesting on how it looks. These shrimp are going, oh, look at that color. Okay, this is what gets me excited. Just by oiling the food, we got beautiful color. Most people think you've got to add a ton of butter or you've got to put lots of oil in to get this kind of texture and color. Not at all. And what we're going to do is kind of move these shrimp around because there's a little bit of color in here that comes off from seafood, this wonderful caramelized brown that gives a beautiful, beautiful flavor. And that's also the seasoning I did as well. Another way you can do is a little bit of paprika if you want to go a bit more Spanish style, and that's a real traditional dish is paprika and shrimp. But I'm keeping this a little bit more simple on, I would say, more the Italian tradition. Now, I'm going to turn the heat off of this bean puree, and I'm going to pop that in my plate here. My goodness, does this smell good. I love it. It's just so fresh. I mean, that is from a can of beans. I'm pretty impressed with that. I'm going to go around the plate with just a little bit of those green onions. I'm going to take a couple more of these whole beans to pop around because I'm going to give it just a little bit more of a level of flavor. And it doesn't take long to do something like this, but get just a brilliant result. And Elsie, my beautiful daughter, who has patiently all these weeks, as we've been home for how many days now?
I've lost track.
65, believe me, I know exactly how many days. You've been filming me every week for this Fire Up the Pantry, so she's been so good, and have you enjoyed it? Have you learned anything along the way?
Yeah.
Have you? Really? Because you're going to be all on your own very soon in New York City. You're going off to college and you're going to be cooking on your own, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're going to make this.
Maybe.
Now, I'm going to layer these around. I'm going to pop one more over here. A final one on top. I'm almost done. A little bit of olive oil to drizzle that around. Okay. Tiny bit more season. If you like the idea of making something like this from your pantry and some shrimp from the freezer, subscribe. We're going to do new exciting things every week, and you can, with me, fire up the pantry.